This is the most powerful, most blinged out Magic deck I own, and I just swapped out 7 cards. The deck in question is Gearson's Starn Kelemorph, a pile of cards that's been well documented here, and whose value probably sits at this point at like twice the value of my car. And I know 7 cards sounds like a lot. When you change out 7 cards in your best deck, it's because you kind of need to do surgery on the deck a little bit. So I'm going to talk about the 7 cards I changed out here, but the reason that I chose to do this is because the deck already kind of exists in that 4++ space where it feels like I'm playing CDH, but it's not optimized for CEDH. 7 cards I swapped out were Mass Hysteria, Saheeli Rai, Ensnare, Young Pyromancer, Ferris Lake, Jace Vryn's Prodigy, and Impact Tremors. Now the whole premise behind Starn is that anything that you have that deals exactly 1 to any source that you control then triggers and does an additional 2 more, right? So lots and lots of things that trigger, like Vivi, for instance, which is a great card in the deck. And then obviously if you attack with a 1/1 creature and it's unblocked, it's going to deal 2 additional damage. So there was kind of a make a bunch of 1/1 tokens sub-theme of this deck. Mass Hysteria is in there, obviously, to give the 1/1 tokens haste. Impact Tremors is giving you extra damage off of that. You know, lots of synergistic stuff there. But in the end, when I've played the deck a number of times, what I felt like was that I wanted to be leaning into the most powerful, most impactful things that the deck was already doing and just doubling down on them. And so the 7 cards I'm adding are Windfall, Tandem Lookout, Sigil of Sleep, Narset Parter Veils, the One Ring, Steel Enchantment, and Ancient Tomb. You may be asking why I wasn't already playing Ancient Tomb in the deck. It's very powerful, and this deck is very powerful, but I just felt like the deck has a lot of blue and red pips and doesn't actually take advantage of colorless mana quite as well as some other decks. But in the end, you do want to be able to cast your commander a second time. I have some other things in here that do want to be able to use the Ancient Tomb, so I figured to swap out the Ferris Lake for this. Steel Enchantment I added to Steel Enchantments, right? I added this card after I talked about it on a video last week, realizing how good it was, and I just think that most of the time I'll be able to discard this card or exile this card to like a Force of Will if I need to, or just steal like a Rhystic Study. I don't know, this card seems good. I took out Jace Vryn's Prodigy and swapped it out for the One Ring. I did have this version in another deck that I swapped in. This is an incredibly beautiful card and just such a powerful card, right? And it's a non-creature spell, so it triggers all the things that I want to trigger. Still a few cards left to talk about, but a quick reminder, if you guys are ever looking for any super high-end cards or just like rarities for your decks, check out ancestralmtg.com. You'll honestly see that the TCG low price that you find them listing their stuff for is the same price on their website, and if you use my code BATEMAN10 at checkout on your first purchase of $250 or more, you get 10% off. And I can tell you definitively that people are just doing this with high-end cards, with dual lands, right? With dual lands, with pieces of power. They're clicking the link, using my code, and just getting 10% off the TCG low price. The deck is already playing Wheel of Fortune and Time Twister, so I figured I may as well add Windfall and just go for the clean sweep of wheels. And if you're going to do that, play Narset, because Narset just makes wheels insanely good. It's definitely CDH and not fun for casual tables, but I think this deck has left the casual tables long ago. And finally, the addition of Vivi to this deck has really brought to mind all of the things that Vivi wants to be doing. So I'm playing a copy of Recruiter to get me Vivi from the deck, which can also now search for Tandem Lookout as a 3rd copy of Curiosity, and Sigil of Sleep just because it going on Starn or on Vivi is just kind of game over. So, you know, we just lean a little bit harder into highly competitive stuff. I love playing this deck, and the thing that is most exciting to me about this is that if I do end up keeping these cards in the deck, I have a few more blinged out old border foils to go after in the Sigil of Sleep, and I think there's like a very cool version of Windfall that I can get as well.